The developers of Palworld have created an infinite money glitch, but in real life. Let me explain. Palworld has recently launched into early access, and the game is already breaking sales records across the board. During the game's first 40 hours of its initial release, it sold over 3 million copies. It went on to make an additional $7 million during the next 5 days, and I could go on. It seems that Palworld just keeps on printing money. As of this video, Palworld is a top seller on Steam and is the most streamed game on Twitch. Palworld is so cartoonishly popular that at one point there were over 700,000 players logged on at once, and it broke the game's online co-op system. There were so many players that the Epic Games backend, yes, the same Epic Games backend that supports Fortnite, couldn't even support it. So needless to say, Palworld is the next hot thing. But what even is a Palworld? I could hear you shouting into the void like you're some kind of boomer. Palworld is a satirical take on the Pokemon formula. I think we've all seen an internet video or a parody that's all made the same type of joke. Isn't Pokemon just glorified cockfighting but sold and marketed to a younger demographic? Like, when you really think about the Pokemon universe, it's kind of messed up that these young children are catching animals and making them fight for their amusement. While I wouldn't consider this hot take original by any means, what is notable here is that for whatever reason, the developers of Palworld are the only video game studio to actually run with the premise of how screwed up Pokemon would be if it existed in real life. Palworld is the cuteness of Pokemon combined with the edginess of Grand Theft Auto and the survival and crafting mechanics of games like Breath of the Wild and Minecraft. And it turns out that if you combined the 4 most popular video game franchises in existence in a blender, you get an infinite money generator in real life. But if you stuck around with me this long, you probably want me to get into a lot more detail than that. Before I get to how and why Palworld has become the hit success that it is now, please like, comment, and subscribe to the Gaming Grappler. The more this channel grows, the more time, effort, and dedication I could bring into delivering you guys content on a consistent and regular basis. And with that being said, let's get on with the show. In order to understand what made Palworld, a parody of the Pokemon franchise, so popular, we have to get into what made Pokemon so popular. And I know that seems kind of obvious, like Pokemon is one of the most popular multimedia franchises in existence, but believe it or not, when it first came out in the 90s, Pokemon was treated like it would be some sort of temporary fad by Western media.
They're selling through the roof because kids want the DVD versions. I think through the holidays, guaranteed, and I can probably guarantee you there's another year and a half to this craze. It hasn't even peaked yet.
I think we've all seen that iconic South Park episode, but Pokemon was treated like it would be some sort of flash-in-the-pan success story, kind of like Furbies or Tamagotchis, and it would only be relevant to a specific generation of children. But it's been almost 30 years now since Pokemon came out, and during that 30 years of popularity, it's had various spikes of popularity that rival its growth in the 90s, like the Pokemon Go craze of 2016 and the card collecting craze that happened during the lockdowns of 2020. In order to understand why Pokemon has stood the test of time, we have to look at who created them. Pokemon comes from Japan, and the Japanese don't screw around when it comes to engineering things. Just look at Toyotas. These are cars that were originally created for soccer moms to bring their kids to practice, but they have such a high build quality and they're so reliable that they could be considered military-grade vehicles that are often sought after in wartime situations. That same level of meticulous engineering was put into Pokemon to sell plastic and toys to children. This franchise didn't just spawn into existence out of nowhere. Pokemon is a combination of all of the popular media coming out of Japan in the 90s and even earlier than that. As a matter of fact, Pokemon, a series that's mostly popular for its monster catching mechanics, didn't even pioneer them. The premise was first executed in the earlier Shin Megami Tensei games on the Super Nintendo and Dragon Quest V, and it was done well in those games. So it's not like Game Freak had to start from nowhere when they created their monster catching game. They already had a decent blueprint of what worked and what didn't work. Series creator Satoshi Tajiri has also been on record saying that the concept of catching monsters with capsules was directly inspired by Ultraman, a Japanese superhero show that had a similar premise. As a matter of fact, a lot of the iconic Pokemon designs were directly inspired by Godzilla and other tokusatsu shows. So as you can see, Pokemon is less of a fluke accident than a scientific process of selecting the best media and putting it in a blender and seeing what worked. Oh, and just a heads up, I'm not trying to claim here that Pokemon is unoriginal or some kind of ripoff. I'm not one of those no fun allowed types, because every new creation is going to be a derivative of something else. The point of this segment is just to say that Pokemon is a well thought out derivative and its success was not a freak accident. And to give Tajiri some credit here, he also based Pokemon primarily off of his childhood hobby of catching insects. You see, he knew a lot of kids growing up in cities would miss out on his childhood hobby, and he wanted to bring that to a new generation of children. So there's a tiny bit of soul in this product meant to sell plastic to children. So what made Pokemon the juggernaut it is today? Well, it's the right combination of all the right things. It's a little bit of Dragon Quest and Ultraman and SMT, and it's targeted to children who, as you know, love to buy toys and products, and unintentionally man children who also buy toys and products. It appeals to both genders, which is an accomplishment. Pokemon range from cute cuddly puppies and huge dinosaurs that want to kill things. So yeah, Palworld aping this formula alone would be a recipe for success. But the thing is, there are plenty of other monster catching games out there that haven't gotten this popular quickly. What made Palworld so different? You see, the reason why I think that Palworld is an infinite money generator is because it cartoonishly stacks the most popular gameplay concepts on top of each other. It's got the monster catching mechanics of Pokemon, combined with the crafting mechanics of Minecraft, which is the most popular video game in existence, and the edginess of Grand Theft Auto, which basically markets and sells the game itself. Let's get into the Grand Theft Auto aspect of Palworld's popularity. Some of you might say that Palworld's gameplay and combat system has more in common with Breath of the Wild than it does GTA, but I would argue that Palworld's comedy and edgy sensibilities are definitely inspired by Grand Theft Auto. I mean, this is a game where you can pull a Glock out, shoot a Pokemon in the face, and then force it to work for you in a labor camp. Like, that's the type of parody and satire that I would expect Rockstar to do themselves. Grand Theft Auto didn't become the second highest selling video game franchise for no reason. What made the series so popular was that it often rode a wave of controversy that Palworld is experiencing right now. And Grand Theft Auto's source material was legitimately pretty amazing. Like, GTA was based off of some of the best gangster movies ever made, like Scarface and Goodfellas. And if you don't like those movies, I'd like to apologize to my audience in advance for your terrible taste. In GTA, you play as a criminal. You can do anything and everything. The game is named after a crime. Like, Rockstar isn't exactly trying to be subtle here. Needless to say, a lot of lawmakers in the United States, like Jack Thompson, would often scapegoat Grand Theft Auto for a lot of real-world violence and rally to have the game censored or outright banned.
Are you saying that Devin Moore shot 3 people in the head because of a video game?
What we're saying is that Devin Moore was, in effect, trained to do what he did. He was given a murder simulator.
Needless to say, this enraged a lot of gamers and drove up a lot of interest in the product. The more lawmakers drove up complaints, the more gamers rose to the defense of GTA. Ironically, the negative coverage of GTA made teenagers, people who weren't meant to play the game, more interested in Grand Theft Auto. However, under the surface, GTA wasn't just a criminal murder simulator. It was a funny parody of American culture, and the games were always cutting edge, pushing the boundaries of technical achievement. And they pretty much invented and mastered open world gameplay that we enjoy today. So why does this unholy alliance of Pokemon and GTA work so well? It works because the premise of taking Pokemon's world and putting it in a realistic setting and playing it straight is the perfect vehicle for dark humor. The idea of how screwed up Pokemon would be in real life just kind of writes itself. There's something innately hilarious about seeing a cute and cuddly mascot character pull out a submachine gun and start blasting other cute and cuddly mascot characters. A lot of the dark humor behind Palworld is simply taking the rules of the Pokemon universe to their logical extreme and forcing them to be consistent with themselves. For example, the pals in Palworld aren't just used to battle other Pokemon-like creatures, they can also be industrially farmed and put to work. And while that does seem kind of screwed up, and believe me, it definitely is in gameplay, it's morally consistent with the universe, because at the end of the day, if you're okay with these cute and cuddly mascot characters fighting to the death for your amusement, you'd also be the type of person to put them to work at a sweatshop. The over-the-top dark humor doesn't just stop there though. Since pals are essentially just this universe's version of animals, you can eat and consume them. And pal spears, the knockoff version of a Pokeball, aren't just usable on other pal or Pokemon-like creatures, you can use them on human beings, and I think we've all seen the Asmongold clip now. And as screwed up as this is, at the end of the day, the game is just being consistent with itself, because if these pal spears have the technology to capture large animals, why wouldn't they be usable on human beings? What, would the technology just stop working? For better or for worse, the world of Palworld is deliberately edgy and provocative, just like how Grand Theft Auto was edgy in the mid-2000s. And US lawmakers like Jack Thompson had the wrong reaction. They tried to ban GTA and they tried to have it outright censored, but at the end of the day, they had the opposite result. By trying to ban Grand Theft Auto, it just drove up interest among gamers across the board, and now GTA is one of the most popular franchises in existence. Right now, video game journalists are making the same mistake that Jack Thompson is. By writing moralizing articles against Palworld, they're just driving up interest among players, and right now, Palworld is one of the most streamed games in existence. Because of how screwed up and edgy the game is, you're guaranteed to have an interesting and memeable reaction to playing it, just like the Asmongold clip. The game is a content-generating machine, and it should be no surprise of how popular it is right now. It also helps that Palworld's deliberately slow-paced survival crafting gameplay makes the experience very easy to stream for your average gamer. You have to keep in mind that while I love fast-paced games like Devil May Cry 5, Doom Eternal, and Turbo Overkill, these games may be difficult for your average gamer to stream. They require a lot of focus to keep up with the difficulty and the fast-paced gameplay. But Palworld operates at a much slower speed. It gives the player plenty of time to interact with their chat, which makes for a good streaming experience, which would explain why the game is skyrocketing in popularity right now. It's just the perfect mishmash of intellectual properties like Pokemon meets Grand Theft Auto meets Breath of the Wild, and it's easy to stream, and it's very controversial and edgy. It should be no surprise as to why Palworld is an infinite money generating machine.